The entire movie, They Cloned Tyrone, is about necromancy. For those that do not know what necromancy is, it's the practice of working with the dead, whether you are summoning the dead or resurrecting the dead. It is all in the name. The name Tyrone translates as from the land of the yew tree. What is the yew tree? It's the symbol of immortality and death. It's the omen of doom. The movie is all about resurrection, resurrecting the dead. He is constantly stuck in a loop of dying and being reborn, much like the Lazarus effect, or even Christ. The magical properties of the yew tree is used in rituals to summon spirits, restoring life, and raising corpses to be servants. These trees are usually planted in graveyards to attract lost souls. They're also planted in places of worship, such as churches. So if you watch the movie, that there is a connection between not only just cloning and resurrecting of life, but also with religion and worship. They utilize these tools to brainwash people. If we are trapped in a program, we become clones. If you are connected to an archetype, you are a clone. You are made to think and act like that archetype. As soon as you step out of that archetypal blueprint, you are considered to be lost or crazy, and you have to be reintegrated back into the system, plugged back into the matrix. This whole movie is not only about necromancy, but it's also about the divine feminine. This scene in the church, they have some juice, which is known as the communions. The chalice represents the reproductive organs of a woman. And the bloodshed for the remission of the sins represents the monthly cycle, the shedding of the monthly cycle. In our womb, because our womb is the universe, it is the great void, it is the church. Whatever is taken on in the womb, once a month it has to be shed and released. So this is the remission of the sins, the shedding of the blood for the remission of the sins. And when they took that communion, that juice, it made them bonkers, it made them delusional. Because of the chemical that was put into the juice. So the juice alone, there's nothing wrong with it. But this is symbolic of women taking in false hormones through foods, through drugs, through medications, all of this. It ruins the blood. So the blood is no longer pure. The womb is no longer pure. So yes, it was highlighting religion, but this goes beyond religion. It goes to our diets. This speaks to the mass programming. This speaks to women and how women's health is vital for to continue generations moving forward. Paired with the speech and all of that craziness that was going on within the church, where the pastor was spewing poison pretty much, if a person hadn't taken the juice, they would be able to see and hear and know what was going on. So by us not taking on the chemicals and carrying that in our womb and keeping our blood pure and clean, that we are able to see and feel and know what is going on in the world around us. All of these man-made products that are made for women do not serve women. We have to do our own research and find out what is best for our uni, for our womb, for our bodies. So low-key, They Cloned Tyrone is not just about Tyrone. It's about the divine feminine, taking her power back, owning her womb. Hair has a spiritual meaning. It is connected to our nervous system, and with that, it is an extension of ourselves. So what we do with our hair is very important. Now, there is an argument that women should always have their natural hair out. Their hair should always be free. No wigs, no hair hats, as I've heard some people call it. But this movie helps to highlight that both natural and wearing hair hats can be beneficial. Recently, there has been lawsuits that have been filed against perm companies for the connection between their creamy crack and cancer. Now, this can also speak to the way how a person may perceive themselves because of their wave pattern. And your wave pattern is really just a wave, a frequency. So this strange compound was not only found in the chicken and in the juice in the church, the communion, but it also was found in the creamy crack. One thing that I noticed when they had Yo-Yo trapped, they started to put the creamy crack on her hair, which looked to be natural. But it turns out that it was a wig. So this is where I differ between some people that say that women should not wear weaves or wigs. In many of our indigenous cultures, women would gather around and make it a ritual to braid one another's hair and anoint it and pray over each other. And we have been robbed from that in many regards. Maybe the hair salon represents that, but the difference is a lot of times it's gossip, degrading one another instead of edifying one another. But another part to this is that the hairstyles during those gatherings were symbols of strength. Sometimes they wore extensions, using fibers to add to the hair, braiding elaborate patterns into the hair. We can even find in ancient Kemet where they would wear wigs to protect themselves, not just from the harsh sun and other elements, but also as a way of how to worship. Our ancestors have been through the stripping, passing that knowledge down, that when we would add to our hair, or take away our hair, or wrap our hair up, or put a hair hat on our head, that this all was a representation of our spiritual journey. As the head is a gateway, it houses the pineal gland, and at certain times we should cover our head. We should cover our head with a cloth or even a hair hat, also known as a wig, because it helps to protect our head from certain radiation that may be in the atmosphere. Now, a lot of that ancient knowledge has been lost, but through study, we can see when to cover our heads and when to remove the cloth or the hair hat or the weave from our heads. That when we do these things, these practices, it's not just for the beautification and the glamour, but it's also because it has spiritual representation. So when they thought that they were putting the creamy crack on her scalp, indeed, the hair hat helped to protect her scalp. This is all symbolic of the benefits of having a head covering at certain times. Now, for the remainder of the movie, she wore her natural hair. She even wore her natural hair out into the sun. So this is important because we should allow our scalps to receive a certain amount of sunlight every day, or as often as possible, because of the healing rays that it provides to our scalp and our pineal gland, and our entire nervous system. It's all about mind control. From the foods that people eat, and there was a highlight on chickens. It's a food that is commonly cloned. That's used as a symbol to represent the control using the gut. The gut-brain axis. You have the brain that was symbolized by the hair, by the crown. If you feed someone's stomach, satisfy them through their gut, the bacteria and the parasites will lead and guide them. The drug was placed inside of the chicken. When people would consume it, it would give them a dopamine hit. When he noticed that after they ate the chicken, everybody was laughing, that's a dopamine hit. So the drug dopamine, through all of the different flavoring and preservatives that they add into the foods that we eat, we have to be mindful of it. Hormonal imbalances, sometimes when people do not get their drugs, aka the foods that they crave, that their body is craving that hit. So they start to lash out. They become stressed, they become agitated.
Fistfights, car crashes, even a murder. Yeah, this is going to sound pretty ridiculous, but all of that is over a chicken sandwich.
Some people are losing their minds over the newest offering from Popeyes.
They cannot have their dopamine hit, make them feel relaxed, at peace, fulfilled, satisfied. They start to lash out at one another. Not only through the foods and through the chemicals that we put in and on our bodies. You pair that with programming through music and frequency and through visuals, along with suppressing the logic through religion, causes people not to think for themselves, that you're able to control the masses. This movie illustrates this perfectly.